Good morning everyone. My name is V. Chandrakiran Reddy and I am 10th ranker GATE 2020. Today we will be discussing about the topic porosity. During this lecture I will be discussing about what is porosity, what are the different types of porosity exist in a reservoir, and we will also be discussing about what are the factors that mainly affect the porosity in a reservoir or a formation, and we will also be mainly going through what are the experimental methods that are available for determination of porosity. Without further ado, let's get into the topic. Porosity. What we'll be doing during this lecture is I will be showing some PPTs where you can note down the notes from the PPTs only, and I will be explaining the PPTs in the whiteboard. First I will be explaining what is porosity. What is porosity? If we take a particular formation, if you take a particular sedimentary rock, let's take a simple sedimentary rock. The whole sedimentary rock is generally made up of grains, that is rock grains. The rock grains, that is grains. Between the rock grains and inside the rock there will be pore spaces where the liquid will be stored in the formation. A minute. Suppose if you consider these 4 grains, this is the pore space relating to the 4 grains where the liquid will be stored. We can say this is the pore space. So generally porosity is defined as volume of the pore space. Pore space divided by total bulk volume. What do you mean by bulk volume is the total volume of the formation. Suppose if we take a particular core, if you take a particular cylindrical core which is generally used in oil and gas industry. Suppose in oil and gas industry, if they mention there will be 2 types of cores. One is whole core and the small cylindrical ones which will be used to find the petrophysical properties of rock. Suppose if they say it is a core, it will generally means it will be a cylindrical core. Consider a cylindrical core of the diameter d and of length L. If they say what is the bulk volume of the cylindrical core, it is 5/4 d square into L. That is the bulk volume. If we consider the whole core has a porosity that is equal to 5, then we can calculate the pore volume. We can calculate the pore space related to that particular core, that is by definition of porosity, that is porosity is equal to pore volume divided by bulk volume, as I have already told. So pore volume is equal to porosity into bulk volume. So based on this definition, pore space, that is pore volume, can be found by this, that is equal to 5/4 d square into L into porosity. This is the pore space related to that core that we have taken. If we go into this part, a porosity is generally defined as a measure of space in a reservoir which is not occupied by the solid framework of the rock, that is the grain part. One thing I forgot is in this only a new term will be introduced, that is grain volume. grain volume. Grain volume is defined as the volume occupied by the grains in the core, that is the solid part. Suppose if we take the solid part, if we particularly take this one, there are three types of volume. One is pore volume, the other thing is bulk volume, the third part is grain volume. If we can see here, the bulk volume is found by using this formula, pi by 4 d square into L, whereas the pore volume is found by this formula. If we can see, these three are interrelated, that is BULK, bulk volume is equal to pore volume plus grain volume. If you can see, so grain volume can be found by subtracting pore volume from bulk volume. Bulk volume minus pore volume, that is, wait a minute, pi by 4 d square L minus pi by 4 d square into L into pi. So finally the grain volume is given by pi by 4 d square L into 1 minus pi. That is grain volume. Actually, these are the main three types of volume related to a core that we will be using. That is the nomenclature we will be using. And generally the porosity is defined as the fraction of total bulk volume of the rock which is not occupied by solids. So it is defined by the volume of pores divided by total bulk volume. Generally its units, wait a minute, its units, it does not have any unit, it's a fraction, does not have any unit, sorry, no unit. It is generally expressed in fractions and percentages. And generally porosity in fractions should not be greater than 1. Should not be greater than 1. Generally porosity is less than or equal to 1 in fractions, that is it can easily be solved, that is pore volume should not be greater than grain volume. That is basically the thing. Okay, let's go to the next slide. During the lecture, the notes which you have to write down is the PPT one, and all the things that are write on the board will be available as PDF under the video link, so you can see there. Okay. As I already told, the total of bulk volume can be divided into two types, that is grain volume plus pore volume. And bulk volume is equal to grain volume plus pore volume. Pore volume is equal to bulk volume minus grain volume. And porosity is defined as this one, pore volume and bulk volume. You just note down these formulas. As I already told, if you take this formation, all the things that are occupied, this one are grains, and the volume related to the grains, the volume occupied by the grains is called grain volume, where the volume occupied by these pores is called pore space. This is pore space and this is mineral grains, whereas combinedly they are called as bulk volume. Okay, this is the new term which is generally used in other than oil industry. There are in majority of the geologists and geophysicists generally use void ratio. What do I mean by void ratio? Generally void ratio is defined as, wait a minute, yeah, if we can take this here, see, it is generally defined as, wait a minute, void ratio is defined as volume of pore space divided by volume of grains, that is pore volume divided by grain volume. Generally it is expressed as E. See, the void space is the ratio of volume of voids in a formation to the volume of solids, that is volume of pore space divided by volume of grains. And generally the void ratio should not be greater than 1, because void space is always is a ratio which can be greater than 1. It can be greater than, whereas porosity should not be greater than 1, whereas void ratio can be greater than 1. So you can remember it. See, what do you mean by E greater than 1? That is volume of pore space can be sometimes pore space can be greater than volume of grains. That's the one I am trying to say. And let's just go through here. Yeah. Right now let's get a relation between the void ratio and porosity. We already know that bulk volume is equal to pore volume plus grain volume. What we'll be doing is divided the bulk volume with pore volume, that is bulk volume divided by pore volume is equal to 1 plus grain volume divided by pore volume. We know one thing, the porosity is defined as ratio of pore volume divided by bulk volume, so it can be written as 1 by porosity. And we know that void ratio is defined as ratio of pore volume divided by grain volume, that is 1 by E. So the relation between these two is 1 by E divided by E plus 1. This is the relation between porosity and void ratio, that is relationship between porosity and void ratio. I think we have done it. Let's go through some of the facts of void ratio. As I already told, void ratio and porosity are just only differ by denominator only. See, in porosity the denominator is occupied by bulk volume, whereas in void ratio the denominator is occupied by grain volume. And the void ratio is the ratio of volume of solids. Yeah, the volume is the ratio of voids to solids, whereas porosity is the ratio of voids to total volume. So you can see the main difference between void ratio and porosity. Okay, we can go on to the next part. Yeah. The classification of porosity. If we can classify porosity, there are so many classifications for porosity, and generally they are classified into two types. Based on the volume, based on porosity related to the volume in the based on the pore spaces. They are classified based on pore spaces, and the other one is based on the deposition environment. Firstly, we will go to the classification based on pore spaces. See, if you can see here, first based on pore spaces, it is actually classified into three types. One is total porosity, the other one is connected porosity, the third one is residual porosity. Actually, there also have the connected porosity is also called effective porosity, whereas the residual porosity is also called ineffective. Ineffective porosity. Porosity. This is called effective porosity. Let's go bit by bit. If we can go to the board. Let's go. Okay, whiteboard. Yeah. Porosity is classified on two types. One is based on their pore spaces. As I already told, they can be classified based on many other things also. Generally, we use only pore spaces and the deposition environment. Deposition environment. We will be going point by point. Whereas in pore spaces, it will generally divide into three types. One is total porosity. The other thing is effective porosity. Porosity, or it is also called connected porosity. Whereas the third one is ineffective porosity. Or residual porosity. Okay, let's get into the porosity part. What is total porosity? Total porosity is the porosity related to the total volume of the pore space. See, if we take a formation, there will be grains. There will be similar to like this. Yeah, if you can see, if we consider the red part here as the grains, and the green part which I have drawn here as the pore space. This is as grains, and this is as pore space. Sorry, this is as pore space. From left to right, this pore space is totally connected, and all the green part is pore space. Total porosity is defined as the volume of total pore space present in the formation. Wait a minute. Total pore space present in the formation to the total bulk volume. Is total or absolute porosity is defined as the ratio of total void space in the reservoir rock to the total or bulk volume of the rock. That is, total porosity is also other name for total porosity is absolute porosity. Total volume of the pores plus total bulk volume of the total bulk volume. And we already know there are actually two types of pores present in a formation. If I can go here, see, it is also known as absolute porosity. Absolute porosity. If we take a formation, I will be using the green ink. And this is if we can see here, this is mineral grains, and all the area which have been marked as green are pore spaces. The pore spaces can be classified into two types. One is isolated pore spaces, which does not contribute to the oil which are being brought to the surface. That is isolated pore spaces. isolated pore spaces. The other thing is connected pore space. This is connected pore space. This is connected pore space. Okay. To absolute porosity or total porosity is defined as total pore volume. Total pore volume divided by total bulk volume. Total bulk volume. That is, we already know that the total pore volume is connected pore volume plus isolated pore volume. Pore volume divided by bulk volume. If we come here, what is effective porosity? Effective porosity is the porosity which is of very important to us, because it is the only porosity that is been contributing to the supply of oil and gas. So this is the porosity which we want to lay our focus on. It is effective or connected porosity is defined as total connected pore volume. Total connected pore volume divided by total bulk volume, and which is very insignificant to the usage in oil and gas industry. That is, right now we are going to ineffective porosity, which does not contribute to the production of oil and gas. That is ineffective porosity, and it is defined as total isolated pore space or residual pore space. Right. Total isolated pore volume divided by total bulk volume. That is ineffective porosity. If we can go point by point, yeah. As we can see here, total pore space is classified as total connected pore volume plus total isolated pore volume. Total isolated pore volume. If you can see here, if we divide on both sides by bulk volume, that is total pore space divided by bulk volume is equal to total connected pore volume divided by bulk volume plus total isolated pore volume divided by bulk volume. So this is defined as total porosity or absolute porosity. Total porosity or absolute porosity is equal to that is effective porosity or connected porosity. Effective porosity plus ineffective porosity or residual porosity. Yeah, that's the thing. Let's go point by point again. Total porosity is defined as the total void space in the reservoir rock to the bulk volume of the rock. That is, absolute porosity is equal to total volume of the pore space in the formation divided by total bulk volume. And we already proved that absolute porosity is equal to effective porosity plus ineffective porosity. Okay, if you go to the next part, what is effective porosity? Effective porosity is defined as the porosity of the interconnected pore volume. All the space related to the there is a misconception about what is effective porosity. See, if you take a core, it's a very small misconception that I think everybody should know. Suppose take this formation. If you can see here, see, if you can see, we can what generally people think is, as this does not contribute to the, as is not interconnected port, that does not contribute to the, we shouldn't take this as effective porosity, but that is wrong. Everything related to here, that is all this part, comes under effective porosity. All this pore space, even this one, even though it is smallly connected to the main pore space that is outside, it comes under effective porosity. So you should remember that this thing, even this comes under effective porosity. Okay, effective porosity is the total volume of the interconnected pores divided by total bulk volume. As I already told, these plays a very significant role, as the effective porosity contributes to the production of oil and gas. See, if here effective porosity is very important, as it is used in all calculations, because it represents the pore space that is occupied by the mobile recoverable hydrocarbons, as I have already told. You go to the next part, residual porosity or ineffective porosity. The residual porosity is defined as the ratio of volume of isolated or completely disconnected pores to the total or bulk volume. This does not play any role regarding production of oil and gas. So closure is a complete disconnect or ineffective in producing any petroleum reservoir fluids due to their isolation, as there won't be any connection between the well and the isolated pores, we can't produce from them. So that is residual porosity. If you get to the next part, yeah, as I have already told, if you take this formation, see, this is connected to the outer area, so this comes under effective porosity. But if you take this small area which are covered entirely by rock, it is isolated, so we call such type of pores isolated pores. I think I have already explained what is the difference between total porosity, effective porosity, residual porosity. And just try to remember this. Total porosity is always greater than or equal to effective porosity. You should always remember that. Okay. Yeah. The other classification I have told about, it is based on a deposition environment. You can go here. Based on deposition environment, there are actually two types of porosities. One is primary porosity. This is the thing. Secondary porosity. Let's go one by one. What do you mean by primary porosity and what do you mean by secondary porosity? Primary porosity is the porosity that is defined as when there is sedimentation takes place after the rock is formed. That is mainly due to sediments after the accumulation of all the grains without any chemical changes. The porosity formed due to the formation of all the grains, that is primary porosity. See, it is defined as the space between grains that are not compacted together completely. It is related to pores or voids between sand grains or solid particles, as well as between sublayers and voids created after decaying organisms that is developed in the deposition of material. Actually, it is also known as original porosity. I'll just explain it to you. What do you mean by primary porosity? Generally, primary porosity is the porosity related to the pore space related to the formation of the rock initially. Actually, what happens is over the period of time, all the sand grains will be compacted together. After the compaction, and cementation. There void spaces will be formed in the formation and without any chemical alteration. That is, initially there won't be any chemical alteration. The pore space related to that area where the porosity is formed due to compaction or cementation, that is related to primary porosity. That is initially. It is also known as porosity, original porosity. Okay. And it is characterized by more or less uniform distribution in the rock. If you can see, what do you mean by uniform distribution in the rock? As I have already told, after the grains has been deposited and they have been compacted, the formation of pore spaces will be uniform throughout the formation. It won't be any random. So the porosity related to primary one, you will have uniform distribution of pore spaces in it, and it is generally found in sedimentary rocks of sandstones, clays, conglomerates. So what is primary porosity? It is related to the porosity of pore spaces related to the formation of sand grains by formation of rock due to compaction or cementation. Okay, that is primary porosity. What is secondary porosity? Before I say it, you try to note down this all notes in your book. It will be helpful for you. Yeah. What is secondary porosity? What is secondary porosity? After the formation of rock due to compaction, the rock will go through some chemical changes due to dolomitization, dissolution, or due to the formation of rock or fracturing and any other thing. Suppose after formation of rock, joints can be formed in the rock, or the rock can be fractured due to the tectonic activities. The formation of void space due to such activity, or due to dissolution, that is due to some fluids, the rock has been diluted and it has been dissolved and the pore space has been formed. Such type of pore spaces are called secondary porosity. Or it is the other name for secondary porosity is also known as induced porosity. As I already noted, if a rock fractures, it does not fracture uniformly in the rock. It fractures in one area. Suppose if you take this as a rock, if it can fracture here or here, it cannot fracture like this as a uniformly. So the porosity related to secondary porosity is generally ununiform throughout the formation. So if you found a rock which is porous and is not uniform throughout it, we generally classify it as secondary porosity. And even in the formation, suppose if you take this as a rock and there are sand grains in it, due to water or fluids, anything, if isolated pore space will be formed. These generally isolated pore space are generally called as works. Mainly it is the main reason for the secondary porosity. What is a work? A cavity or void space or a large rock in a rock that is commonly lined with mineral precipitates. Okay, generally I will just say the difference between primary and secondary porosity. Okay, come to here. What is the main differences? It is also called as original porosity. It is known as induced porosity, and it is also known as, it is mainly due to compaction of grains. It is due to fracturing, dissolution, etc., and any other activities. Generally the primary porosity can be found in sandstones, whereas the secondary porosity are mainly related to carbonates. I will just show you what is the main difference between the primary and secondary porosity. I think almost all of you know what is rock cycle. There will be sediments which will be compacted and cemented. compaction and cementation, it will form sedimentary rock. After sedimentary rocks, which will go to heat and heat metamorphic. Magma will go after cooling of magma, metamorphic, something like that. See, the formation of primary and secondary porosity is mainly related to this cycle. Compaction and sedimentary rock. That is, both are sedimentary rocks. And these are the main difference between the primary and secondary porosity. Please note down this one. That is developed by. Okay, you can pause it if you want. Yeah. What are the main factors that affect the porosity? See, the changes in a rock, that is the changes in the changes in a rock, that is in pore spaces. The many factors affect porosity. There are many factors that affect the porosity. Mainly, there is grain packing. The allotment of grains in a certain shape or any other thing affect the amount of porosity present in the rock. The other thing is grain sizes. The grain size also will play a very huge role. Let me say what do you mean. I'll go point by point. What is how the grain packing affect the porosity of a rock, and how the grain sizes and the grain shape, the grain distribution, and many other thing will play a huge role. Let's go one by one. What is grain packing? The allotment of grains. Generally, if you think the grain is as a spear, the grains can be allotted in many number of ways. That is packings. There are generally six type of packings. One is cubic, hexagonal, rhombohedral, orthorhombic, tetragonal, and triclinic. Maximum porosity is related to the cubic one. That is 47.6%. We will even try to derive how the cubic porosity has been allotted to it one by one. You can see here the grain packing. See, the maximum porosity. What is the maximum porosity for a particular packing arrangement? As I already told, there are mainly 6 type of packing arrangements. One is cubic, hexagonal, rhombohedral, orthorhombic, tetragonal, and triclinic. Try to remember in the same order, because it will be easy for you to remember the porosities. You have to remember these porosities. What is the packing? What is the maximum porosity associated with that packing arrangement? I will just explain it to you how the packing arrangement. If you can be here. Yeah. If you can see here, factors affecting the porosity. Affecting the porosity. The first one is grain packing. We will be discussing about the cubic arrangement. The angle between the grains will be 90 degrees. As I already seen here, for cubic packing 90 degrees, for hexagonal 60, and rhomboidal 45. Whereas orthorhombic, even though it is 90, there is a slight change between it. I'll show it to you. If we consider four grains, sorry for the alteration. Consider 4 grains of equal diameter and shape, and consider the D is diameter of the grain. Diameter of a grain. So if you take this cube, the length from here to here will be D. and it will be a cube. It will be a cube. And let's take what is the volume of this cube. Bulk volume. If you take this thing, what is the bulk volume of this cube? That is d cube. D cube will be the bulk volume of the cube. And what is the grain volume? Grain volume. See, if you can see here, take a cube, D. For one sphere, for one cube, see, one sphere, if you take a one grain sphere, it is distributed among 8 cubes. So if you want to know the volume of the cube, it is generally volume of the sphere, that is the grain volume related to the cube, is equal to volume of the sphere. If you take this each part, in a cube, it will be the volume of sphere. Try to imagine it. If you can see here, in here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you combine the 8, it will become a sphere. The thing will become a sphere of 8 parts. So the grain volume is nothing but the volume of the sphere. So volume of the sphere is given by pi by 6 d cube. Pi by 6 d cube. So we can find the porosity related to the cubic arrangement. As we already know, porosity is given by pore volume divided by bulk volume. So pore volume is equal to bulk volume minus grain volume divided by bulk volume, that is equal to 1 minus grain volume divided by bulk volume. So 1 minus, what is grain volume? Volume of the sphere, that is pi by 6 d cube. And what is bulk volume? D cube. So the answer is 1 minus pi by 6. If you solve this, it will come as 0.476. Try to solve it. So in percentage, the porosity of the cube is 47.6%. Similarly, the porosity of the remaining arrangements can also be found. If we can see, let us see here. Okay, if we can see here, let's go to the next arrangement, that is B hexagonal. See, it is given as theta is equal to 60 degrees, that is, it will be similar to like this. A cube will be, means a parallelogram or a quadrilateral will be similar to that, which has a 60 degrees. Try to solve it. It will be like this. You don't have to remember this process, but what I am trying to say is, if you forget in the examination the values, you can just remember 90, 60 and 45 and you can derive it if you want. Generally, don't forget the values related to the arrangements. For cubic, what is the maximum porosity present? What is the, that is 46.5, and what is the hexagonal porosity? See, if you can see here, this is given by this length. This length is given by d sin 60. So the volume of bulk volume of bulk or bulk volume is equal to d sin 60 into d, that is d square, because it will be like this, and it will be an angle. Consider a sphere, and if you can move the consider a cube. If you can move the cube at 60 degrees angle, what is the volume of the cube? What is the volume of the quadrilateral or cube? That will be d sin 60 into d square, that is d cube sin 60. And what is pore volume? The pore volume, as we already know that for one cube only one sphere will be allotted, so that will be the grain volume. It is grain volume. Wait a minute. It is grain volume, that will be volume of sphere. It is volume of sphere, that is pi by 6 d cube. Pi by 6 d cube. So we can similarly find the porosity of the arrangement. Porosity of the arrangement will be 1 minus grain volume divided by bulk volume. That is equal to 1 minus pi by 6 sin 60. After solving this, you can get 0.3954, that is 39.54%. Similarly, you can solve for rhombohedral, which has a theta of 45 degrees. So try solving this yourself. Consider this your assignment. Okay. Right now we have seen how the arrangements, the packing arrangements influence the porosity of the formation. Let's go to the next part. Okay. Let's go to the next part. Yeah. You can see similarly take this as an assignment. And try to remember these grains. Grain, what is the type of packing and what is the maximum porosity related to that particular packing. And grain size. How the grain size influences the packing. It is noted above that the ordered cubic packing of identical leads to porosity, that is grain size independent. Suppose if we take pore spaces of a particular grains, consider all the grains are of equal or identical sizes, that is spheres of volume of diameter d. The porosity for such type of spheres will be same when compared with a different diameter, because unless until there is a difference in grains in the formation, for every formation the dependency upon the grain size will be limited if there is no change in different the sizes of the grains, until there is different changes, you can see. But if we take a random arrangement of spheres, if we take one big one, one small one, and if you try to change the number of big one and small one in a formation, the porosity tends to change for different types of spheres. That's why the porosity also depends upon the grain sizes. But if all the grains in a formation are of identical, then the porosity does not depend upon grain sizes, because it will depend only upon the packing arrangement. Okay, but in real life, or in ideally it is possible for all the formations to be present, all the formations to have identical spheres, but in real life environment it is not possible. Every in a formation there are randomly distributed sizes for grain sizes. Okay, so we'll go how does the randomly arrangement of spheres in a formation affect the porosity. In real life, yes, I already told you, in real life deposition environment, ordered packing are not found because they are energetically unstable and the grains are randomly distributed. See, if you can see here, with grain size diameter, the porosity is decreasing. And see, as the size of the diameter of the grain, they are talking about not similar type of packing, random packing. It will be decreased, the porosity will be decreased as the grain diameter increases. That's how it depends upon the grain sizes. Only for randomly distributed porosity increases with decreasing grain size. Okay, sorry, yes, remember this, that for randomly distributed porosity increases with decreasing in grain size, so they are inversely proportional. It is grain size is inversely proportional to porosity. Remember this, they are not always true. If all the grains in the formation are identical, it does not depend upon grain size. Okay, let's go to the next step. Grain size, grain shape and grain distribution. Basically grain shape, it is generally defined as sphericity. This is sphericity. What is? It is defined as a measure of how closely a particular grain resembles that of a perfect sphere. As the sphericity increases, the more the grain looks like a sphere. See here, if you can see here, this is very low, this grain has very low sphericity because it is like a flat object. As sphericity increases, it becomes more round. Okay, that is sphericity. Sphericity is defined as how closely an object resembles that of a perfect sphere. And the other thing is the sphericity is related to grain shape. Okay, both are roundness. And what do you define by roundness? Roundness is mainly dependent upon the smoothing of the abrasion of sedimentary particle. As the roundness increases, there won't be any what we will call any uneven surfaces. If you can see here, it is less rounded. Less roundness means it is angular. There are many angular areas. As it becomes more and more rounded, it will be, there won't be any, the whole surface of the grains will be smooth. See, smoothness, and there won't be any we will call abrasion on the surface of the sphere. Roundness is the degree of smoothing due to abrasion of sedimentary particles, and it is generally expressed as the ratio of the average radius of curvature of the edges or corners to the radius of the curvature of the maximum inscribed sphere. And you can just remember this for definition. But you have to understand what do you mean by roundness. As the grains become more and more rounded, there won't be any abrasion area, or it will be more smooth. The area will be more smooth. Okay. Grain and size. Sorting. What do you mean by sorting? Sorting is distribution of grains. As if we consider here, this is a well sorted. Well, if you consider here, this is a well sorted formation. It means almost all the grains have equal sizes, almost equal, not equal sizes, but almost they have equal sizes. That is mean by well sorted. See, well sorted grains of approximately all one size. Materials have higher porosity. The things which are very well sorted. Suppose in cubic packing it is well sorted because all the spheres are identical and they have very high porosity. What do you mean by poorly sorted? There is a very great amount of deviation between the sizes of the grains. If you can see here, well sorted formations have high porosity and a very poorly sorted formations have low porosity. So the sorting of the particle grains play a very important role also. As you can see from the images here. Okay, as the grains are poorly sorted, that is there is a very great variations in the grains present in the formation. The porosity will be decreased. As the sorting increases, the porosity will also increase. So you can easily say the sorting is directly proportional to porosity. Okay, try to remember it. Let's go to the next. There are also several other factors. Actually, apart from these three that I have mentioned above, there are also several other factors which influence porosity. We will be only covering some of them. And if you take a particular rock, the secondary process, that is the secondary porosity, also greatly affected the porosity in the formation. That is, they can carry into mechanical processes, stress compaction, plastic deformation, brittle deformation, fracture evolution, etc. And different geochemical processes, dissolution, precipitation, volume reductions, and contamination. Upon mineral changes, remember this, as the cementation of the rock increases, the porosity will be decreased. Many other geological changes also affect porosity, such as compaction, cementation, fracturing, dissolution, and every other thing. As I have already explained how the dissolution changes the primary porosity in a rock. So apart from that, the geological process also will play important role in getting your porosity. Yeah. How do we measure porosity? What are the experimental methods that are generally available in determination of porosity? As we already know, the measurement of porosity. We'll go by one. Okay. Measurement of porosity. Actually, I think many of the students have already know. One is through core analysis. What they do is they will take a core from the bottom of the formation, that is the area of interest. They will take a core and they will do experiments on the core to find the porosity of the core samples. Apart from that, there is also formation evaluation, that is well logging. Formation evaluation. We will go one by one. What are the, after recovering of the core, after drying it, what are the methods that are generally available for determination of porosity? Go one by one. First we will be going through core analysis process, that is surface methods. There are two ways to determine the formation porosity. One is through subsurface methods, that is formation evaluation or well logging. The other one is surface methods or core analysis. You can also write this as surface methods. Subsurface methods. Okay. What are the experiments that are generally done, that are generally used for determination of porosity? And it should be generally noted that the accuracy, core determine porosity of much, yes. The porosity determinant at surface has very good degree of accuracy when compared with subsurface analysis, that is subsurface methods. When compared to formation evaluation, the porosity found in the lab have very high degree of accuracy. So remember that. When compared with this, high degree of accuracy. Okay. Okay, what are the generally, actually there are various other methods. In this particular session we will be discussing only six methods. One is fluid saturation method, buoyancy method, helium porosity method, mercury porosity method, rock density method, and fluid summation method. Let's go one by one. Let's go. What do you mean by fluid saturation method? First part is core analysis by fluid saturation method. You don't have to remember the names of the experiments, but try to understand the process that is involved in determination of the porosity, because majority of the problems will be given from the experimental part only, the numerical part. The numerical questions, majority of them will be given through this process only. What we will be doing in fluid saturation method is, we will take a core sample, dry sample. Suppose we take a dry sample and we will find out its weight. It is W dry. After, let me go through just one more time. See, what we will be doing is, we will be taking a core sample of known volume, that is the bulk volume of the core sample is generally calculated by us using a set of the known methods, and we will be weighting the dry core, that is WT dry. After that, we will be saturating the core with a fluid of known density. What we will be doing is, we will saturate the core with a particular fluid where we know the density of the fluid. We know the density of the fluid. So after saturating the core, we will weight the saturated core, and we will note down the WT weight. So from this we can know what is the pore volume, what is the volume of fluid occupied in the pore spaces, which will be equal to the pore volume of the rock, that is effective pore volume of the rock. If you can go here, pore volume, that is connected pore volume is equal to volume of fluids in the core. We know one thing, what is the weight of the fluid, that is saturated fluid weight, that is weight saturated minus weight dry. We know one other thing, that is density of the, what do you mean by density? Density is defined as mass by volume. So mass by volume of fluids in the core is equal to mass or weight of fluids divided by density of fluid. As I have already told you, we already know the density of the fluid. That is WT saturated minus WT dry divided by density of fluid. Now we know the volume of the fluids in the core sample, that is equal to pore volume of the core sample. Pore volume is equal to volume of fluids is equal to this one. So we can find the porosity right now. As I already told you, we will be calculating bulk volume through known methods, as it will already be a cylindrical core. That is porosity is equal to pore volume divided by bulk volume, that is equal to Wt saturated minus Wt dry divided by density of fluid divided by bulk volume. So using this method, what we have to do is we have to take a core, we have to note down its dry weight. After that we have to saturate the core with a fluid of known density, and we have to find the saturated core weight. After that, after subtracting the weight saturated minus weight dry, we will find the weight of the fluids. From that we will find the volume of the fluids present in the core. From the volume of the fluid present in the core will be equal to the connected pore space, that is pore volume. By dividing the pore volume with bulk volume, we will get the porosity. One of the things you have to remember that through fluid saturation method, we will not be finding total porosity of the rock core, but we will be finding the effective porosity, that is the connected porosity related to the core sample. Okay. Now let's go to the next part. What I want to do is try to solve this question by yourself using the above method, and if you have any doubts you can contact me, and I won't be explaining the question part. I think it directly you can use the formula, but don't remember the formula. What I am trying to say, don't remember the formula, try to remember the process, how we have done it. That's very key role. That's very key, because in examination they won't give based on formula, they will try to test you through concepts. So don't try to throw all this data in the before formula. Try to solve from first what they have given and what you have to do. After if you have done this, pause the video and try to solve it. Okay, if you have paused the video, the answer is C. Okay, after that question try to solve this question also. It is based on fluids saturation method only. Try to do it and try to do the whole process. Don't remember the formula. The answer for this one also will be in the next slide. Try to pause the video while doing this. Yeah, the next one, the buoyancy method. Buoyancy method. Wait a minute. Okay, we'll take green ink. The next one is buoyancy method. Try to note down these questions. Try to note down the notes I have been giving through the PPTs only. And okay, let's talk about buoyancy method. Buoyancy method is basically based on the principle of Archimedes principle. If you can see a body which has been immersed in a fluid displaces the volume of the pores, the volume of it. Suppose as Archimedes said, once a king has asked Archimedes to find the exact volume of the crown of the king. What he have done is he immersed the crown in the water, and the volume of water that has overflown is equal to the volume of the crown. That the same method we will be using here, because if you take a pore volume, if you take a core and if you drop the core in the bowl full of water, the amount of fluid that has been displaced by the core is equal to the grain volume, is equal to the grain volume plus the isolated pores. Okay, all the remaining connected pores will be occupied by the water. Okay, that's the method we will be using. So this method requires a clean dry core with a weight in air, that is Wt dry. After that we have to also know the bulk volume using the known methods, as the core sample will be cylindrical, and we should immerse the core sample in water, the fluid of known density, that is rho fluid. And we should also know the core sample of the fluid in water. What we will be doing is, what is the core sample of fluid in the water? We will tie up a string and we will find the weight immersed, and this will be the weight in air. Okay, will we go by formula. If we can see here, what we will be needing is a particular core sample. Firstly, we have to know its bulk volume. After that, we have to weight the dry core sample, that is WT dry. After that, we have to immerse the core sample in a beaker filled with water of known density, that is density of fluid in it. We have to find the WT immersed. Okay. So this is the things that we will be getting from Archimedes principle. We know that WT immersed is equal to WT dry minus buoyancy minus buoyancy. If you can see, this is the weight part. This is mass, this is weight part. If you want, this is mass, 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 not weight. But we know that, I think you already know what is the difference between weight and mass. So G into G into G. WT immersed is equal to, immersed into G is equal to WT dry into G minus buoyancy. Buoyancy is defined as the rho GH, density of fluid in which you have, V rho G, that is volume of the core sample, that is grain volume, that is volume of grains sample into density of the fluid into G. So by cancelling all the G's on one side, we get WT immersed. Try to understand the process that we are going. WT dry minus V grain into density of fluid. See, buoyancy force is defined as volume of core sample that has displaced water, that is V, the density of fluid into acceleration due to gravity. From that we can get grain volume, that is WT dry minus WT immersed divided by density of fluid. As we have, if we know grain volume, that is equal to grain. So from we already know bulk volume. So bulk volume is equal to grain volume plus pore volume. So pore volume is equal to bulk volume minus grain volume. From here you can get porosity is equal to pore volume divided by bulk volume, that is equal to 1 minus grain volume divided by bulk volume. The grain volume is given here, 1 minus WT dry minus WT immersed divided by density of fluid into bulk volume. Even to see, one of the main disadvantages of using this method, because if you take a sedimentary rock, when water has been if you dip the sedimentary core sample in a particular fluid, the porosity will change due to the reaction between water and rock. So one of the main disadvantages is that. Apart from that, the other thing is it calculates total effective porosity rather than total porosity, because all the water which are being going into the dry core will be stored in connected pore volume only. They don't go into the isolated pore volume. So the buoyancy method also will calculate effective porosity rather than total porosity. I think you understood the procedure of finding the porosity.